right, ladies, who's ready to craft? Anybody? Anybody ready to craft? Okay. Welcome once again to our craft night. We've been doing this a few years. I think it's over 15. I'm going to have to sit down and count it someday. We're so glad that you're here tonight. Raise your hand if this is your very first time at our craft night. Ooh. Well, I hope you are in for a treat. Most of the ladies who've been before seem to really enjoy it, and I always enjoy seeing women gather together and enjoy fellowship together and go home at the end of the night with something they created themselves they can hang up or give as a gift, and it just gives you a feeling of such excitement that you made something yourself. Now, here's what I'm going to warn you against. Some of you are going to look at your craft tonight, and then you're going to look at your neighbor's craft, and you're going to do the comparison thing. What I heard recently, comparison is the stealer of joy. And tonight, we are all about the joy. You may notice there's joy in a lot of the things that we have tonight. So I encourage you, just focus on what you're doing, and when you get it done, take it home, hang it up, invite a friend over, and don't say anything. And then when they say, oh, where did you get that? You're going to say, I made it. And they're, no, you didn't. And you're going to say, yes, I did. It's so much fun. Well, I want to welcome everybody here tonight, and I want to take a few minutes first to thank a lot of people. The first person I want to thank is not even here tonight. My husband, Richard Camper, who puts in probably every bit as much of work on craft night as I do. He's in Chicago tonight, and so I have substitute video audio teams, and we are thankful to our audio and video teams here, J.D. Cottle, Gary Bauer, Christian Sawyer. If I miss somebody, you'll have to forgive me. I also want to thank my craft team. All this stuff doesn't happen magically, believe it or not. I have a craft team. This year it is Lisa Evans, Jennifer Duncan, Kim Kelly, Kristen Wilkerson, Jill Benefield. They have all done prep work for you guys tonight, so let's give them a round of applause. Also, there was a team of about 6 or 8 other people who showed up yesterday afternoon and helped put all these supplies on your table and got it set up for you. So we are going to get crafting, and we are going to be going quick. When I say do something quickly, you'll need to do it quickly, or we may be moving on without you. And we don't want to do that, but you also don't want to be here till midnight. So that's all I'm saying. Okay. For those of you who've been here before, you know this, but for those of you who are new, it is a challenge to get 100 or more women to listen at the same time. So I always have a little catchphrase, and I say part of the phrase, and then you all complete the phrase, and then after that, it's quiet so that you can hear the next instruction. Because there'll be some times when you'll be able to talk and work, but then there'll be times when we need to move on. So tonight, I'm going to say love, joy, and then you all are going to go peace. Okay, so let's try it. Love, joy. Peace. Perfect. Okay, so that's how we're going to make sure that everybody can hear all of the instructions. My craft team has on aprons. If you're a craft team member, raise your hand. They may be out in the foyer. They have on aprons, and they are going to be circulating tonight. If you need extra help, raise your hand. If you are missing a supply, raise your hand, and the craft team will come around and assist you with the things that you need. Before we begin tonight, I'd just like to take a minute and pray. Let's bow our heads. Father God, I just thank you tonight. How awesome to see all these ladies here tonight, Father, gathered together to fellowship and to enjoy some fun together. I pray, Father, that all that we do and say will be glorifying to you. And I just pray, Father, that each woman will go home from here tonight feeling blessed. And I ask all these things in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. All right. When you checked in, you should have gotten a name tag. If you've not put that on, put that on. You will also have 2 tiny name tags. Those are going to go on the center of the back of the board, the rough side that's facing up. So put one on the center of each of these boards. That makes sure you go home with your own craft and not your neighbor's. Okay? Little tiny tags. They should have been with your name tag. Okay? One on the back of each board. And then, if you have both tags on your board, raise your hand. Put your tags on. Then I want you to take your stencils and very carefully slide them under the table. And when you stand or scoot chairs tonight, watch for yours and your neighbor's stencils, okay? We don't want to tear them up, but we need some room on the table, so we're going to have them pushed aside. I have notes, and sometimes I go by them, so sometimes if you see me looking over, that's to make sure I don't forget to tell you something. Okay. The first thing I'm going to tell you is actually what you're going to do at the end. Those of you who have been here before know that not everybody works at the same speed. And so some people are going to finish earlier than others. And I'm going to give you this instruction so that when you get to this point, if you are done, you can do this last step and move on, okay? So the last part of it is going to be taking your 2 boards that will be completely finished. You'll take the 2 of them, you'll walk outside. You know where there's snacks right now? There won't be snacks there. There are going to be rolls of painter's tape and markers and guides. And what you're going to do is there's also going to be a bunch of frames out there. So you're going to get 2 frames. The frames will have a back and a front. Some of them will look the same. They'll look equally good either side. Then you are golden. But if one side looks better than the other, you want to take the best looking side, you want to lay it down against the table. Where's the side go that looks good? Against the table. Then you're going to take your pretty design side, lay it face down, and then center it. And then you're going to put painter's tape, which will be out there just like this. Do you see these are diagonal on each corner? Are they really big against the whole thing? Just small, okay? So you're going to do that, and then I don't have one of them up here, but there are poster board guides. If your design goes this way, you're going to want to have that wall hanger right up here at the top. So you would use the guide. It will show you exactly where the center is, and you'll mark it just like that with a Sharpie that's going to be out there. That's so when the guys get ready to hammer, they don't put it here and your design's hanging crooked, okay? So you're going to have 4 pieces of tape and you're going to have a marker for the hanger. After you finish that, at those tables, you're going to go on to the commons area, and there's going to be a whole crew of guys with air nailers and staple guns, and they're going to staple this together for you, and then they're going to hammer your thing on. Now, if for some reason you don't get finished tonight and you've got to take yours home, you can also put this together with a glue gun, okay? So just letting you know that on the off chance somebody has to go. Okay, I'm not going to take any questions because I'm going to give these instructions again later, but if you are one of those quick people and gets done first, you can move on to that when it's time. You'll know. Okay. Next thing we're going to do, turn both of your boards over with the smooth side up. and find your rag, just a rag that's in front of you, not the paper towel, a rag. Okay? We're going to take this and we're just going to wipe off the front of it to get any dust off of it. And you're going to find dust on your rag. Turn it over, wipe it one more time. Take your rag, shake it down towards the floor, away from the table, to get any excess dust off, and then set it aside. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is paint. In your little supply bucket, you're going to find a foam brush, and you're going to get the paint out that has the word white on it. There's two paints that look like they're white. One is actually white. You want that one first. Okay. We are going to paint with this white paint. Listen to what I'm going to tell you. Look here. When we open paint, this one and all the others that we open tonight, watch what I'm going to tell you. Don't open your paint up in the air. Don't open your paint by the edge of the table. Open your paint in the middle of the table with your hand with the paint on the table. Flip it open and lay the lid beside it so that the messy side of the lid is face up. Every time you open paint tonight, do it that way because we'd like to keep paint off the floor, off of our neighbors, and off of our clothing, okay? So we're going to take our brush, we're going to dip it in this white paint. We're going to make long strokes from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top to the bottom to the top. You want your strokes to go all the way across every time. The first 5 or 6 strokes are not going to go on easy because your paint isn't completely loaded. So watch what I'm going to do. We're just going to see how I'm doing it. Back and forth. And then I'm going to get some more paint. And after the first 3 or 4 strokes, your paintbrush is going to get more loaded. You can go ahead and start this. So just paint long strokes all the way across. This is coming off. Okay, this is not going to completely cover the brown. You are going to see strippy stuff. You're going to see patchy stuff. This is just a first coat, and this is a color called titanium white, and it helps block out that darker color behind. Before you move to your second board, you want to make sure this board is completely covered because we don't want to go back to it because we want to let it dry. We want things that we do tonight to dry quickly. So make sure your first one is completely covered. Again, can you see that? Can y'all get a shot of this? Do you see? You see there's still dark lines? It's not going to be, and don't put it on too thick because if you put it on too thick, it won't dry in time. Once you've completely coated that first one, you can do the same thing on your second board. Make sure your strokes go all the way to the end because otherwise you'll have patchy places. Y'all are doing a great job. If you're still painting your first board, you probably need to move along. Okay, ladies, if you finish both boards, just rest your brush on the lid and have a seat. That way I'll know kind of pace and how we're doing. If you need something to wipe your hands, you can use either a paper towel or a baby wipe, but don't use all of it. Just use one baby wipe because we've got something else to do with them in a minute. I see a lot of people getting finished. There are bags of baby wipes to share between 3 people, so remember, just use what you need, but save some for later. Deanne, what you looking for? Okay, ladies, once you're finished, sit down. That way we'll know we can move along. Okay, y'all are doing a great job. Are you done? Yeah, it looks good. Okay. Yes. All right. Love, joy. It's magic. Try it with your kids sometime. Okay. Here's what you're going to do. Take the brush with your container on the table, and we're just going to wipe out a little bit of the excess paint from the brush because we're going to use it again with the next color. So we're just wiping off excess so it's not too globby. And then we're going to take the lid of the paint and snap it back on. You're going to hear a click. Make sure it clicks. Okay. There's another paint that's creamy colored. It's called light buttermilk. You're going to open that one up. How? Setting it on the table, not in the air, not by the edge. Okay. Don't start painting yet. We got to wait for these to dry, but we've got our other paint ready. Okay? If you'll notice, the first board you painted should be almost dry, because this wood just soaks that paint in. But we want to make sure it gets completely dry before we begin painting with the other color, because otherwise you're going to have trouble with it drying as we go, okay? So let's give it about 4 more minutes for drying, and then we're going to start with the light buttermilk. When we do the painting of the light buttermilk, it's the same thing. We're going to do long strokes all the way back and forth, all the way to the end, back to the end. Now, when you finish that, it's still gonna look a little bit streaky. Look at the crafts. They do that. It's a distress look, okay? And after we do the light buttermilk, we're gonna add some distressing to that, okay? That'll be the following step, okay? So we still got about 3 more minutes of drying, and then we're gonna be light buttermilk painting. Again, if you have any questions or need supplies while you're working, raise your hand and the craft team will come around and give you a hand. Love, joy. Let's try that again. Love, joy. Okay. Ladies, which board do you think we want to paint first? The first one we painted, because it will be the driest. So we're going to start painting that board with the buttermilk paint, and then we will move to the second board when you're finished. Using the same brush, using the same technique, cover the boards with the butter. Oops, technical difficulties. Okay, you can go ahead and start painting. Thank you. Yeah. Ladies, if your boards are not completely dry, wait. If your boards are not completely dry, wait. But if your boards are dry, you can go ahead and start with the buttermilk paint. And you'll notice this one goes on so much better because there's already a coat of paint on it. It glides on like butter. Long strokes all the way to the end. Once you've finished your first board, you can move on to your second if it's completely dry. I see a lot of great painting out there. As soon as you have both boards coated, stop painting so it can start drying. The quicker you're done painting, the quicker it begins to do the drying. Okay, ladies, you should be almost done painting both boards. If you still have a board to paint, paint quickly. Okay? If you get paint on your hands or on the table, use the paper towels, not the rag, to wipe your hands or the table. Paper towels, not the rag. Okay, ladies, if you finish painting both boards, have a seat. That way I'll know how many people are still painting. If you finish painting both boards, have a seat. If you finish painting both boards, put your lid on your buttermilk paint. Snap it closed. Okay, ladies, everybody's eyes up here. If you're finished painting, you're going to take your brush and both the white and the buttermilk paint, and you're going to put them in the trash bag that is either at the end or middle of your tables. There's a trash bag at each end and in the middle. When you're all done, make sure the lids are snapped on, throw away the brush and both paint containers. All right, ladies. Everybody if you're still painting, just finish painting. But everybody else, take a paper towel, and you're going to lift up the edge of your board, and you're going to wipe the table where it might be a little bit damp. And look right up here. You're going to wipe this edge of your board at the end. Then you're going to set it down, and you're going to wipe the other end of the table and the other end of the board, and you're going to do that on both boards. We're trying to get puddles of paint off our table so they don't get into anything else later. So wipe the ends of the board and the little puddles that are on the table, and then put that paper towel in the trash. When you've done that, everybody have a seat. If you're still painting, finish painting. Okay, we're going to take a few minutes now and let these boards dry, because it's very important they get very dry before we move on. While the boards are drying, I'd like to share with you guys a little bit. So if I could have everyone listening, even if you're painting. Ladies, as we were preparing for tonight, I have been given a lot of thought about what I wanted to share. And several of the designs tonight talk about be joyful, enjoy the little things, love, joy, peace. There seemed to be a repeated theme there. And so I started really thinking about what really is joy. And I think our world would tell us, when you would ask about joy, their answers would really be more about happiness, things that make me happy, having a lot of money, or having an easy job, or maybe not having to have a job, or having everything perfect in your life. Well, sometimes those things can make us happy, but true joy is something that is not just happy. It is an emotion that is deep inside, and Christian joy comes from our relationship with the Lord. The Bible tells us that joy is one of the fruits of the Spirit. A long time ago, I wanted to do a craft with the fruits of the Spirit. This is probably maybe 15 or 20 years ago. And I never could quite find the one that I thought would work. But this year I found one, and I'm real pleased with that. But I think all those years ago, I thought of that list as something I needed to manufacture. I needed to come up with. I needed to love. I needed to be joyful. I needed to have peace. I needed to do all these things. And as the years have gone by, can I ask one of my craft team to get me a bottle of water or a cup of water or something? I've realized more. The Bible tells us it's a fruit. It's a fruit of the Spirit. Well, you don't just, the tree doesn't just go, oh, let me make an apple. It's an apple tree. When we have the Spirit, He produces those things in us as we live and follow, as we seek the Lord, as we grow in our knowledge of Him. And so all of the things on that list, which sometimes it just seems like too much. It's like, that's a lot of things. But if I realize it's not me, the Spirit is going to produce those fruits in me as I continue to follow. The other, which one is it? Oh, it's over here. The other verse, which is from Romans, be joyful in hope. The joyful in hope talks about the only reason we can have hope, the only reason we can have joy is because of the hope that we have in Christ. Now, I have a hope in Christ. It is not, I hope that Jesus saved me. I hope. That hope is an assurance. Jesus tells us that if we place our trust in Him, we become part of His family forever. And the way that we do that is first by acknowledging we're sinners. Me, you, everybody. There's nobody in this room or in this world that isn't a sinner. We all have done things that, as we tell the kids in Beach Club, sin is anything we think, anything we do, and anything that we say that breaks God's heart and makes Him sad. That's the kids' way. God had a set of laws, and we have all broken them. We have all come short. And the only way that we can be reconciled to God is through His Son Jesus. The thing is, when man fell, when we messed up, when the first sin happened, it wasn't what God wanted, but there was a separation. God is holy, and we are not. But from the very beginning, all through the Old Testament, it seemed like, oh, there were all these rules and all these sacrifices, but it was all pointing to what God had planned all along. He had the perfect sacrifice already in place, already in mind. Before the foundation of the world, God planned that He would send His Son to be able to reconcile us to Him. And the way that that happens is first we recognize I sin, I mess up, and that we acknowledge that in and of ourselves, there is nothing that we can do to make that relationship right. Somebody might be better than me, I might be better than someone else, but none of us are ever going to be perfect. Doesn't matter how hard we try. I bet I couldn't be perfect for one single day of my life. But God gives us the righteousness of Christ, who lived a perfect life and went to the cross to bear those sins for us. And the Bible tells us that when He died on the cross, He was buried. But after 3 days, He arose again. And now He's in heaven. He's there with God, waiting for those of us who place our trust in Him to become part of His family forever. He's there, and not only is He there waiting for us, Christ intercedes for us. Christ prays for us because, guess what? We need it. This is a hard world. That second part of that verse that says, patient in affliction, as I was looking at that this week, I was like, oh, patient in affliction. So I looked up some more translations, and I was like, I got to get this better. Because, again, our world thinks of patience as, okay, sit quietly and wait. But that's not what he tells us to do in affliction or tribulation or trials or the difficulties that come our way. One of the translations says, endure. That sounds more like what it feels like when we're going through those difficult times. We have to endure through it, but we don't have to endure alone. It tells us to bear up under it. Again, not something we can do by ourselves. And then the last part of that verse says, be faithful in prayer. Once we have a relationship with Jesus, we need to be faithful in prayer, not because God needs our prayer. We need the prayer. We need to be speaking to him and allow his word to speak to us so that we can grow in him, so that he can change our hearts, so that he can do what he wants, which is make us more like Christ. One day, there will be a joy like there was none other. He will blow a trumpet, Christ will return, and all that are his will meet him. But not all that walked in a church one day, not all that grew up in Sunday school. It's those who've made the conscious decision to place their trust in Christ and decide to follow him. If there's anyone here tonight who doesn't know Jesus, who doesn't have that personal relationship with him, I would just ask that you find me afterwards. Find one of our other craft team leaders or someone else, maybe someone who invited you to come tonight. Talk to them about what that means. If you have questions, ask them. God's not afraid of questions. The Bible is full of answers. And there's nothing he wants more than to have that relationship with you. When I was growing up, at the church I was raised in, we had a class that at a certain age, you learned about what the church believed and all the information. And one of the first questions was, what is the chief end of man? Like, what's the most important purpose of humankind? And it says this, the chief end of man is to know God and to enjoy him forever. There's nothing I would want more for each of you here tonight than to know God and to be able to enjoy him forever. Please, if you have questions, feel free to ask somebody. Don't put it off. We're not promised tomorrow. I thank you for your attention and for listening. Now we're going to move on. It always feels awkward at this point because it seems so serious, and now we're going to craft again. But that's what we're going to do. Okay, so the next thing you're going to, everybody touch your boards, unless they're really wet, don't touch them. Do we feel like we're pretty dry? Okay, if your boards aren't dry, don't move on. But just listen to the directions so you'll be ready. Everybody find the bag that has baby wipes in it. Not everybody has a bag. They're for sharing. So get a baby wipe. Actually get 2 baby wipes out for you, and then pass the bag to somebody else. Is there anyone who doesn't have baby wipes? Raise your hand. Okay, everybody's eyes up here. There's going to be a bottle on your table. It might be white like this, or it might be clear. It's what I call faux stain. And basically, it helps make things look distressed. We used it to stain the frames. It's basically a secret recipe It's paint mixed with water. Um, it's a Liquitex Basics paint, which is a pretty heavy paint, and so you mix it with a little bit of water, and it does great. Don't do this yet. I want you to watch me, and then you'll do it, because there's only one bottle for every 3 or 4 people. So just listen. This isn't going to take long. You twist this open, and not on top of your board. Over here, do you see where I am? On the paper. If you do it on top of your board, you can make a mess, okay? Certainly don't do it over your neighbor's board. So can you get it? I'm gonna put on like 2 or 3 drops. Just, do you see how little bit that is? It's just a tiny bit. Then I'm gonna take that drop and I'm gonna mash it into my baby wipe so it's not too thick at all. Now, we're gonna take this stain and we're gonna make distressing marks on our board. Let me tell you 2 things. For the first maybe 10 or 15 seconds, it's real forgiving, okay? So if you put, like if I do this right here, and then I don't like it, I can just erase it, okay? It's magic. It's not magic. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do some little spots, and then I'm gonna kind of smooth them out. I'm gonna do a little more, and you can get more, but you may only need 2 drops for both whole boards. Some of you are gonna want more distressing than others. Some of you are gonna do it just like this that I'm doing, and you're gonna leave it. For a lot of us, that's gonna be, ooh, that's much, so I'm gonna come back and then just smooth it so it kind of blends and it's not quite so in your face. Some of you like a lot of distressing, some of you don't like any, that's okay too. But we're just gonna put some distress on, and then I'm gonna stop at some point and I'm gonna think, okay, if this is the board I'm doing the Fruit of the Spirit on, I like the most distressing on that. That's just my personal preference. But if you don't want a lot of distressing, don't stop when you're done, okay? But every few seconds, stand back and go, oh, that's a little much right there, rub it out, and then decide where you want to add a little bit more, okay? You're going to repeat the same process on the other board. So as soon as you're ready, take 2 drops. Yes? It shouldn't need shaking. Yep. Just a couple of drops, not too much. And pass the bottle to your friends down the table. Do you guys need a bottle right here? Mm-hmm. You'll want your distress lines to run the length of your board, just like your paint strokes. The distressing only takes a couple of minutes. All right, ladies, at some point. Yep. Okay, ladies, at some point you have to just stop distressing. You have to tell yourself, stop. It's too distressing. Okay. When you're done distressing, put that baby wipe in the trash and then use the other baby wipe just to check your hands, see if you got anything on them. And then put those in the trash. Okay, if everyone at your table is done with the distress paint, twist it closed and pass it towards the back of the sanctuary. Twist it closed, pass it towards the back of the sanctuary. All right, ladies, love, joy. Everybody have a seat? The distressing stain all passed down, all the baby wipes out of the way. Okay? We're going to let these dry. As you notice, that was such a little amount of paint on it. It's just going to take a second for that to dry unless you went crazy. In a minute, I'm going to do mine, but you're going to watch first. We're going to polish our boards. Now, that sounds kind of silly, but we're just basically going to take our rag if it's dry. If it's not dry, don't do this, okay? But if it's dry, we're just going to make long strokes all the way back and forth down our boards, putting some pressure just about 2 or 3 times over the entire length of the board. And then after you've done that, touch that board and then touch the one that hasn't been polished, and you'll just see how it just smooths out the surface and makes it ready for our stencil. Okay, if your boards are dry, you can do your polish. Just back and forth all the way down. Just buff it out. Okay, ladies. love, joy. Okay, if you're still buffing, finish doing that. Everyone else, take your rag, pass it to the far end of the table. Craft team, if you'll just put those in a separate bag so they can get washed, the ones that have been used. Just pass those to the end of the table at the back of the sanctuary. They'll collect those. Look around your table. If you have baby wipes that have been used or any paint brushes, put those in the trash. Get everything you don't need right now out of your way. Keep your bag of baby wipes and the extra paper towels. You might need them later. Okay. We're going to begin to apply our stencils. Listen carefully. Okay? Most of you should have a yellow squeegee. You might have a blue squeegee. Okay? Get your squeegee out of your supply bucket and pick up one of your stencils. My suggestion would be if you have one that's gather or enjoy the little things, those two are the two simpler designs. I would start with that if it was me. It'll be a little easier. I'm going to show you something. It's a certain way to apply the stencil, and y'all are going to watch, and then y'all are going to do it. But the first thing we want to do is we're going to take both boards and we're going to turn them the other way. We're going to turn them horizontally, okay? No matter which way your design goes, it doesn't matter. We want our boards to be turned this way in front of us. Okay, everybody's eyes up here. Every stencil, no matter what design, is end to end the blue part. There's 3 parts here. Let me show you the 3 parts. This part that has words on the back, that's called the backing paper. Say it. The blue part is the stencil. The white, very lightweight stuff is called the transfer tape, okay? So if I talk about transfer tape, I'm talking about this white stuff. If I talk about backing paper, it's the heavy stuff on the back, okay? So every stencil was cut exactly the length of the board so that you guys will get perfectly centered crafts if you follow the directions, okay? Now, they are not all the same width of the board, okay? On the designs that are, listen and look, on the designs that go this way, both the gather and enjoy the little things, that blue edge lines up against the edge close to you, okay? That's how it's going to line up. We're not going to do it now because we've got something else to do first, but I just want you to know that's how it lines up, the blue edge against the bottom. If you have a design that goes long ways, this right-hand side right here lines up against the bottom edge. Now, on this one and on Lovejoy Peace, they actually go almost the full width, and so they're almost both sides are great, okay? So these will be exactly the same size. This one lines up where? At the bottom. If you put it at the top, I mean, that's a design choice. You could make it. I'm just saying if you want it centered, you'll want to match up the bottom. Okay, what we're going to do with our squeegee, first we're going to lay this down, and we're going to rub this on the back, and what that's going to do is it's going to press the stencil part onto the transfer tape, making sure all the pieces stick. Now, if you look up here, This one is a breeze, okay? Because there's big pieces. But if you have this or the fruits of the Spirit, there's a lot of tiny pieces. So we need to make sure, especially on the more detailed designs, that we really rub. Watch what I'm doing. I'm putting pressure and I'm rubbing the stencil so that it presses on to the transfer tape. All this is doing is just making it stick. It's making it stick better, okay? After you've done that on one, trade to the other one and do the same thing. We're just rubbing the stencil onto the transfer tape. Okay, after you've rubbed both your stencils really well, go over them 2 or 3 times from the back, making sure it's real stuck on there. Okay? You're not buttering bread. You want to put some force behind it. Okay, ladies, everybody look up here. We are going to put the stencils on tonight with something called the hinge method, okay? The hinge method makes it super good not to get anything crooked and not have to figure out exactly where to put everything. So I'm going to take first my stencil and I'm going to line up the blue corners with the corners of my wood, just like that. So that this edge here lines up with the bottom edge of my board, not the white part. What are we lining up? The blue. That's right. Okay? Once I've done that, we're going to take a piece of, these are 12 inches wide, okay? So you want a piece of painter's tape that's about 14. It doesn't have to be exact, it just has to be longer than 13 inches. So watch what I'm going to do so you can do it in a moment. If you're not watching, it's harder to follow, okay? We're going to choose a spot somewhere around the middle. It does not have to be the center. And because of this, can y'all see which design? This is the one, be patient in hope. Joyful in hope, patient in affliction. So I'm actually going to choose this spot right here, just under in affliction. And once I put that across, watch what I'm doing. I'm going to lift up this edge of the board, and I'm going to wrap the tape around to the back, and I'm going to wrap this tape around to the back. I'm securing the stencil to the board, okay? Then we're going to take this. If you guys will not do this with me, but just watch, I will do it a second time, and you guys can do it with me. Because there's a few steps, and if you're doing some, you're going to miss the others. So I've got it secured. Now I'm going to fold the stencil back over itself. Just folded it right at this tape edge. Now I'm going to begin to lift my backing paper away from the stencil. I'm holding the stencil. Don't do it now, just watch. I'm holding the stencil with one hand. Here's what you want to watch for. The blue should stay on the transfer tape and not on the backing paper. So as I pull up, you'll want to do this real slow. Don't pull up. Say that. Say it again. Okay, we want to pull back. It's like a roll. Roll this back, and it could be little bitty pieces of that blue stick to the backing paper. If that happens, take your squeegee and just rub that spot so that it sticks, and then keep going. Keep rolling, rolling. Oh, can y'all see this? There's blue. I've got to stop. If I'm going quickly, I'm going to rip it off, and you're going to be sorry. Okay? So roll it back down, rub right there. Try again, and look, it sticks. Going slow. Oh, another little piece. So you've got to do this slow because those little pieces just like to come up. There it is again. Just take your time. Getting this part right is going to make a big difference in what you do. A little bit more. Okay, once I have it this far, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a pair of scissors. There's only one pair of scissors for every 3 people, so share with your neighbor. Okay? Once I have it that far, I'm going to take this paper. Now, listen about the scissors. The point of the scissors is sharp. What's going to happen if you drag it across your board? It's going to scrape the paint off. So lift it up and just cut the backing paper. Don't cut anything blue. Just cut backing paper. Don't tear it. That causes other problems. So you're going to cut the backing paper all the way across, not scraping my scissors on the board. And sometimes you could have your neighbor help you do the cutting while they're holding. Okay? Now watch what happens. Once I have this off, this is still taped. So all I do is I take my little hand and I just slowly walk it down, and that end of the stencil is magically perfectly straight on my board. Once that's done, you can take the hinge off because the other end of your stencil is now holding it to the board. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this end, fold it back, and you can go from either end, but we want to lift way up, right? No. Roll it back, slowly, watching for any, I'm going to do it from this end so y'all can see with the camera. That's a better shot, isn't it? Sometimes you don't need your squeegee for those little parts. You can just use your finger to push it back down. You see how I'm doing it? Rolling it what? Back, not up. Roll it back, one part at a time. Okay, if you feel confident, you can start your hinge. If you need to see me do it again, feel free to wait till I get this one done and we'll just do the whole thing over again. Say again? Yes. With the second half, I do the same thing. I just walk it back down. Okay, we have a hand raised over here. Can someone give them a hand here and over here? Okay, I'm going to do a second one. If you guys want to watch it happen again, if you feel confident in your hand, you go right ahead. But love, joy. Let's try that again. Love, joy. Okay, if you are, okay, guys, some people are really trying to listen. If you are good with it, go ahead. But I need you not to be talking because some people want to see this demonstration again and follow it themselves. So on this one again, I'm lining up the bottom of the board. I'm taking my painter's tape and I'm going to make a hinge from one side to the other, somewhere around the middle-ish. If you need help, raise your hand. The craft team is going around helping. Okay. All right, so again, fold it back. Grab the white part and separate the blue part, rolling the white part back, rolling that backing paper back. Pushing down if any blue parts get stuck. And when you get to the hinge spot, cut your paper. And you don't have to cut right up against the hinge. You can be out an inch or so from it. Then you're going to walk this back down, laying your stencil flat. Okay, craft team, I've got somebody with a hand up over here. Craft team, I've got somebody with a hand up over here. Can we give them some help? Yeah, after you've put on your first stencil, go ahead and put on your second one. And then we'll take the transfer tape off in just a minute. But it's pretty much all sides match. Ladies, if you have both of your stencils on your boards, look around to the people near you, see who might be able to use a hand getting those stencils applied.
A reminder, when they put the tape on, after they lay the first half down, remove the tape because people have adhered both edges and left backing down the middle under their tape. So reminder.
Okay. Love, joy. Love, joy. After you lay down the first half of your stencil, you have to remove that hinge tape before, otherwise you end up with a piece of backing paper in the middle of your design, which is not good. So make sure you remove the hinge before you do the second side. Again, if you're finished, ask if someone needs your hands or your help. Okay. Hey, I'm sorry. If let Oh,
If
she's,
I cut it there, I could
Yes.
make that part straight. Okay.
again, ladies, if you're finished, see if there's someone near you who could use your help to get their stencils applied to the board. We need some help right here. Kim, could you right over here? There you go. Okay, again, if you need help, just raise your hand. There are a lot of people, my craft team and other people who finished theirs, who'd be happy to give you a hand. Got a hand over here. A hand over here. If you finished yours, look for these people with hands up. See if you can give them a hand. Y'all are doing a great job. This is the hardest part. I'll tell you, once this is done, this is the hardest part. All right, ladies, everybody, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you still have stencils to apply. Raise your hand. I want to see about how many we have. Okay, again, those people around, if you would like help, ask for help from the people that are around. Some of them are already finished. Yeah, we're good. All right, ladies, when you're done, make sure all the backing paper is in the trash. The backing paper into the trash. I see more and more people finishing. Y'all are doing great. You have a question? Or you just need some help? Right over here. We need help. We need help. If you're needing that help, raise your hand high till someone shows up. Raise your hand high till someone shows up to help. Okay, anyone else still need help? Raise your hand. Anybody else still needs help? Love, joy. Okay, I realize some people are still putting stencils on. If you are, continue that. Those of you who have finished, we are going to start the next step. If you need help getting your stencil on, raise your hand. Let someone give you a hand, okay? We don't want you to fall too far behind. The next thing we're going to be doing is removing the transfer tape. Listen carefully. My transfer tape is in 3 pieces across here. Some of you are going to have one long piece. The process is the same. Transfer tape, just like backing paper, never lifts up. When you lift up, and this is going to be true when we take our stencils off, never lift up. When you lift up, you're going to make things happen that you don't want to happen. But we're going to remove the transfer tape by rolling it back. Watch. I roll it back on itself. Sometimes I like to just make a roll, like I'm rolling it up into a little scroll, and just roll it back on itself. And this part, you're not going to have as much trouble with. It's just going to roll back. The blue should stick very well to the board without any trouble. Just roll that transfer tape. Just don't pull up. Just roll back, and then when you get a piece off, move it and start on another one. Just roll it back. Roll it back. Just make a roll. Roll it up. Like you're making a little scroll. So roll your paper tape off, and when you get it in a nice little neat roll, put it in the trash. When you finish the transfer tape on one, just go ahead and move to your second one and remove the transfer tape from it also. Same way, just roll it back. If you make that long sheet up into a roll, you'll find it just rolls off twice as fast. Roll that transfer tape right off of there, put it in the trash can. Roll them, roll them, roll them. When all the transfer tape is off, just put it in the trash can. Transfer tape to the trash can. Okay, you need to get transfer tape off of both of these boards right away. We're about to get ready to stencil here in a minute. Take your transfer tape off. Love, joy. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is once your transfer tape is off, look at this carefully. We're going to use the squeegee. We want to make sure that all the area around our letters is really sealed to the board. Do you see this big blue area out here? I don't care about it. No paint's going to get under it. But here, I want to make sure. Now watch what I'm doing. Don't squeegee like this. You're likely to catch an edge and pull something up. Squeegee like this. Do you see how low the angle is that I've got my squeegee at? I'm less likely to rip up something off the board. But you just want to go over, especially the letters, make sure there's no bubbles close by your letters because that's where the paint will seep up under and then you won't have a clean, crisp lettering. Make sure you rub those edges down around all the letters. Remember, keep the squeegee at a low angle. Once you're sure your stencil is secure to the board in all the letter areas, guess what we get to do? Stencil. Okay, I'm going to show you the process. I know some of you are still removing your transfer tape, but I know some are ready to move on. So, watch what I'm going to tell you. Paint. Where do we open paint? On the table. Flip it over. This is called a finger sponge or a dabber. Watch what we're going to do. I'm going to take that dabber, I'm going to dip it in the paint, and then I'm going to dab it onto my lid because I don't want a glob of paint on here. Almost as soon as you stencil, it will begin drying. Now, you're going to want to go over your entire design 2 times. The first time, you're going to cover it, but it's not going to be super dark. Then you're going to repeat it. It's going to make it darker, but it's also, you're going to see any spots you missed, okay? So start at one end or the other and just dab. Look what I'm doing. Am I going like this? This is not brain surgery. This is just stencil dabbing. So watch. It just goes quick, 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 quick. And you just want to go through the whole design super quick. And once you get to the end, just come back to the beginning and repeat it again. Do one full stencil twice and then move to the second one. Small amounts of paint, dab it on the lid, then dab it. Little bit of paint, dab it on the lid. Super quick stenciling. This whole stencil shouldn't take you but a few minutes. Some of the designs will take longer, but it's just a real quick dab, dab, dab action. You want all that white part to be filled with black paint, but you don't want it thick because you want it to dry super quick. Dab, 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 dab. Good. Do the stenciling real quickly because, again, we're going to go over each design twice and we want them to dry. Love, joy. Love, joy. Okay. If you would pass the painter's tape to the back of the sanctuary, the ladies are going to need to move those somewhere else. So just pass that down the table. Keep stenciling. Thank you. Two times. Go over each stencil. Once you get to the end of it, just start back where you started and do it again, because you'll just want to make sure that, and look at this. If you'll look up here for a second, once you think you've gone over it twice and there's nothing that you missed, pick it up into the light, and you're going to see some little tiny spots that didn't get quite as much paint as you want. So make sure you want those really crisp letters when you're finished, and that's what's going to do it. But don't do thick paint, because that's not your friend. Is there anybody that needs help? The craft team is available. If y'all need help, please raise your hand. Remember, go over one stencil 2 times, then move on to the second, because you want that first one to get dry. Okay, ladies, look up here for just a minute. I want to show you something. I've just finished this first one. I want to show you. I'm looking across my stencil, and right here, it's shiny still up at the top. There's too much paint there. Let's see if I can get it. You see that? Okay. So I'm going to take my stencil dauber, and I'm going to just dab around there. And what ends up happening is I pick up that extra wet paint or spread it out. So, because we want all the paint, even the paint that's on the plastic, to get dry, because otherwise we're going to make a mess when we try to take this off. So just dab over any wet spots you see when you finish that first stencil, and then repeat the same process on the second one. We don't want any wet spots remaining. We want those to get super dry before we start taking this thing off. So once you've finished one, you can just move on to your second. Remember, you have paper towels and baby wipes if you get any on your hands. Y'all are doing a great job out there. Dab, dab. craft team, we need some help up here. Jill, Lisa. I think Kristen's got it. Jill? Sorry. Love, joy. Okay, I'm going to remind you of two things I've stated before, but some of you weren't far enough along, so you wouldn't listen to it. Okay, once you've gone all the way through and you see shiny spots while it's drying, if you'll just dab your dabber on that shiny wet paint, it smooths it out so it will dry faster. Because if you start peeling up your stencil before this is dry, you are going to smear black paint in all kinds of places you don't want it on your design. Not only do the letters have to be dry, all the plastic black part has to be completely dry also. So that's, if you're done stenciling, just wait and let that finish.
If you start on this side and start peeling back, and the they can see exactly how it's going to work.
Good. Love, joy. Okay. Y'all said it kind of like peace. Let's try that again. Love, joy. There we go. Peace is pretty cool when we get it. Okay. If you are finished, these are the things I want you to do. Take your black paint, seal the lid tight, put it in the trash can. You're going to take your finger sponge over the trash can and push the sponge into the trash, but save this PVC dauber because we've used them again and again. So just push the sponge into the trash, but save this and put it back in your little tray. Let me see the hands of people who have finished stenciling both of their designs. Okay, not so many. Okay, I'm going to give the rest of you a little more time. Keep going. Dab, 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 dab. You guys are doing an awesome job. Okay, once you've finished, make sure and stop stenciling so that it starts to dry. Make sure you put your paint with the lid on in the trash, the sponge out of your dabber in the trash, but the little PVC pipe, save that in your tray. Okay, let me see the hands of everybody who's done stenciling. Done stenciling. Done stenciling. Okay. I think it's the majority, so we are going to move on. Those of you who are still stenciling, just listen. Just listen, and when I say look up here, look up here. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the stencil from the board. Now, this seems like, okay, just rip it off. Don't do it. You'll be sorry, okay? This is where you want to take it off the slowest of anything we've done tonight, okay? And one thing, this is something new I learned. They said, what happens sometimes when you've painted a board and you take your stencil up, guess what comes up too? The paint on the board. And so we want to avoid that. And we're going to avoid that in two ways. We're going to be removing the stencil. We painted this way, remember? Across the board long ways. We're going to be removing the stencil in the opposite direction. So the stencil is going to come off this direction, across the board, okay? The other thing is, like we did with the backing paper, like we did with the transfer tape, we always roll. So if you guys will just watch for a second, I'm going to show you this design and this design, two different things. We're going to use scissors to kind of cut our design into pieces so we take off one piece at a time. It makes it a little easier, especially since these designs are so big. Now, on this particular design, if they're already cut at the edges, right here and here, if you notice the letters go all the way off the end for this. So I'm going to take the edge of this and I'm going to roll it back. And the first part is always real slow. I'm just going to roll it back like this, and then after I've rolled a little bit, make a roll. Like, you don't want to just pull all the way back. You're having to do too much force. Make a little roll and start rolling back. Go slow. If you go slow and you go this direction across the board, you're less likely to rip your paint up. Now, this one's kind of in sections, so I'm just going to do it like this. On this particular design, because the lettering goes this way, I'm going to clip my design, if I can get a hold of the edge. Manicures. You have a little plastic razor blade, that's going to be useful. So you can put it under the edge there, and then I'm going to make a little roll on this end here, turn it back over itself, and then I'm going to start rolling. And I'm just going to roll all the way down this design. And because this is cursive, when we get to the middle part, we'll just clip the ends and then lift that part off, and then I'll flip it around and roll it this way, okay? So depending on your design is kind of where you're gonna wanna cut it in pieces to roll, but you always wanna be rolling from on the width, not the length. Touch your design. If it is damp at all, if it is wet, if you get black on your hands, stop and let it dry. It needs to be completely dry or you're going to make a mess, okay? Any questions about removing the transfer tape? Roll it, roll it, roll it, okay? Just make a roll. Just make a roll and start pulling. Now there will be parts in the middle that aren't going to come up, and that's where we're going to use the little razor blade and the guitar pick to help get those other little pieces out. But this is the fun part, because as you start peeling this away, you get to start seeing your actual design, and it's so exciting. Share the scissors. Remember, there's only one pair for every 3 or 4 people. Craft team is available and walking around. If you need help, let them know. As you remove the stencil, just move it to the trash. Just roll it, roll it, roll it. All right, ladies, look up here. When you get the majority of the stencil off, you're going to see there's still a lot of stencil left. That's when you're going to use the edge of this little guitar pick or the edge of this little plastic razor blade. Who knew? Did anyone else know there was such a thing as plastic razor blades? I had no idea, but I found it a useful tool. You just slip the edge under the edge of the stencil pieces and peel it right up. And those little pieces, if you want to just stick them to the table or stick them to a piece of paper towel or something, so they're out of your way. I'm starting to see some designs out there. Ladies, you guys are doing an awesome job. I'm starting to see the stencils come off. I'm starting to see the designs revealed. This is my favorite part. It's like, look what it looks like underneath. So fun. Yeah, if you can, just clip it at each row. It rolls off real quick.
What's next?
They're going to start putting the tape. They're going to go out and start assembling them, and then we're done.
Going out there? So we're almost,
Yeah, for this, yeah. We're getting there. Remember, you have those little bitty tools to help you get those little bitty pieces. Look at that. Look at that. Y'all are doing such a great job. They look awesome. Love, joy. Ladies, when you get both of your designs with the stencil completely off, remember, you're going to take both of them out there. There's frames, there's tape. You're going to tape the corners. You're going to use a Sharpie and mark where your hanger goes. The men are going to attach it, and they're going to hammer a hanger, but if you don't mark the right edge, you're going to have a hard time putting it on the wall, okay? All right, as soon as you're ready, you are welcome to go out and get yours stapled. Look at that. Frames. Woo! People getting done. So if you are back in and have yours stapled, look around at people around you who might still be taking off their first design. See, ask, make sure and ask, because not everybody wants help, but ask if they would like some help. Thank you.
Someone has left this in the bathroom, and they might
Th-
be looking.
They left?
It was laying in the bathroom on the counter.
Oh, in the bathroom.
They
Okay.
washed their hands.
Thank you.
I'm afraid that I don't know who to give it to.
You're right. Love, joy. Okay. Someone who was recently in the restroom left a ring. If you left a ring in the restroom, I've got it right up here. Someone brought it to me. So come and get it. Otherwise, I have new jewelry. So just teasing. Again, if you're finished and you would like to help someone, let someone know if you'd like some help. We've got people around. I see more signs coming back in, all stapled and finished. They look awesome. Yeah, make sure and tape the tape off of your frames after it gets stapled, because if you leave tape on too long, it can peel off the stain. So after they staple your frames, remove that painter's tape. Okay, Paula, hold them up. Let me see. What? Woohoo! They look great. Yeah, I think we can. One more time, I have a ring someone left in the bathroom, so if you're missing it, let me know.